Hi everyone, thank you for joining us this afternoon. My name's Karen Holden. I'm the founder of A City Law Firm. We're an innovative law firm in the city. We work for a lot of businesses, SMEs, a lot of established businesses. So whether you are furloughing staff, whether you're seeking investment, whether you're merging, my team are there pretty much to support you. But today we wanted to see how we could help employers recruit, maintain, retain, reward, all of these things that you need to do during the pandemic and post-pandemic. And I'm really fortunate today to be joined by Natasha, who's going to help me explain some of the many things that they're doing with their experience to do this. Natasha, would you like to just sort of introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Natasha Newby. I'm a senior employee benefit consultant for Corinthian Benefits. We're based all across the country. Our head office is in Tunbridge Wells, and we've also got an office up in Manchester. And this is what we do with the benefits people. So we look after SMEs primarily, and we look after all of their benefits, from obviously pension, which is now a legal requirement, right through to things like private medical cover, group life assurance, right down to what we call perk benefits, so gym membership, restaurant discounts, all of those kind of things. And that's what we do. We look after SMEs. We are an SME ourselves, so we know exactly how it works for people.
Now, a lot of employers are going to be thinking, I'm running my business, I'm trying to furlough staff, pay my VAT, minimize expenses. I can't be worried about benefits and pensions and all these right now. But actually, Natasha's here to tell you that's actually the wrong way to look at it. You've got staff on furlough that want to come back. You've got to retain the pool of talent that you've got. You potentially might even have to recruit new talent. So, Natasha, why is it ever more important that employers understand the benefits they're offering, promoting the benefits they're offering, and, what tips would you give an employer right now?
Yeah, no, Karen, you're absolutely right. Benefits are really important. We go into many companies initially, and some people say, well, we've got these benefits, we haven't looked at them for ages. And I always call it the car insurance test. We all tend to, hopefully, do check our car insurance every year, or perhaps check our mortgage, make sure that it's with the right place and the right, we're getting savings. So that's one of the biggest things to start with, is actually, is my benefit, whether it's a group life assurance or a private medical, is it with the right company? Am I paying the right premiums? Have I ever looked at it? So that's from an employer's point of view, is to actually have a bit of a sense check, a bit of a health check on it. The next side of it, with regard to employees, is actually what they need to know is, what is the benefit? What am I getting? So we go into companies, and they've had these benefits, and you'll talk to employees, and they'll say, yeah, I think I've got a pension, might be some other bits and pieces. And so what the key thing for employers to make sure is that the benefits they're offering are absolutely known to the employees. So we do a big communication piece around that. Some of these benefits are really important. So, for example, pension now is a legal requirement, but a lot of people don't know exactly what's in their pension scheme. The stats are something like 35% of people couldn't tell you what their value is of their pension. Wow. I actually think it's probably more than that. And we just explain it as being a bank account. But there are other benefits out there. So, for example, group life, private medical insurance, group income protection. And actually, there are quite a few companies that offer those, but people don't understand them. So we're always saying to people, you must make sure that the employees can understand what you're paying for and what you're giving them. Because if you've got an engaged member of staff, they're more likely to stay with you, because why would they go down the road to another company for an extra £500 a year salary when all these benefits you've got are worth far more than that? So yeah, it's really important that benefits should be seen, should be not your best kept, we call it not your best kept secret.
Well, you mentioned actually we've got a lot of home workers right now, and we're all scattered, various different parts, maybe just communicating like we're doing with Zoom. How do you keep them motivated? You mentioned offline some really interesting things to do that your clients are doing now through you.
Yeah, absolutely. So aside from all the ones that we would call standard, so your private medical, your group life and those kind of things, there are quite a lot of employers that do what we call soft benefits or soft perks. So it might be that if you typically worked in an office, you might get pizzas on a Friday, or drinks after work on a Friday, or we've got clients who have people that come in twice a month and will do yoga sessions or massage and all these kind of things. And we've had a couple of clients saying, well, what am I going to do now? We're not, we're at home, and potentially some of these people might stay at home now. They might be home workers. And so we're looking at other options, and we've got one client that's looking at sending a bottle of wine to each home worker every month. There are some that are looking at, you can get some personalised chocolates, just to try and do some those are the kind of little things. And focusing more on things like employee of the quarter, employee of the month, and just remembering that those people at home, you need to kind of keep in touch with them. It's really important. And then just engage them on the core benefits that you do offer. Make those important, make them understand how valuable they are.
Yeah, I mean, we as a firm, we've been doing every week, we've been doing a group quiz. So, obviously get to interact with each other socially, and actually each member of staff's been doing the quiz. So each one's been engaged. And I think it's really important to try and keep that team camaraderie going, because it's very difficult. And, you've got people stuck at home all day. You don't know how they are feeling mentally. You don't know what their finances are. So I think you're right. It's very important to engage your team right now. Now, it was interesting. So a lot of people were saying, well, people should just be really lucky they're not being made redundant. They should be really lucky they're getting furloughed. But actually, we're hearing the opposite, that there's a lot of people thinking, well, I never liked this job, and are looking elsewhere. Their productivity is really good. So their employers are thinking, I need to keep them. So ever more now, keep recruitment costs down and retain talent seems to be the focus of many employers, as well as when they do come back from furlough, how do you get them back integrated with the team, retrained, upskilled. One of the things you were mentioning to me, and I can see from an employer's point of view and from a legal point of view why there might be some strict concerns and you'd need a really good setup and policies, but it's private healthcare. So obviously, as we get our employers ready for people to return to the workplace, they're carrying out a risk assessment. Is it safe for people to return? How are you going to comply with government guidelines? Can they use the lift? Can they use the toilets? There's a lot of things that employers are going to have to do to make their workplace safe, secure, health and safety. They've got to put very strict policies in place, obviously monitor and enforce them. And then you have to juggle a bit. But don't worry, team, it's okay, it's safe, be productive, be secure. Yeah. So you were mentioning, Natasha, maybe private healthcare is something right now employers should be considering as a perk to get them over that feeling, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few benefits out there, but private medical insurance or private healthcare is one of those ones that has a real strong value. And I think we're going to see more people want to implement private medical insurance, whether that's on an individual basis or through a company benefit. We've all heard the shocking stories of the fact that the pandemic has now made waiting lists for treatments, whether that's for something serious or even, if you're going for some, I don't know, osteotherapy or whatever it is, and things like that, physiotherapy, everybody's worried about, I'm going to be on a massive waiting list now with the NHS. That's where private medical, I think, will come into its own, and people will be really interested in having that type of benefit, because it means that they will kind of skip the queues, if you like. And also, I think, let's be honest, the pandemic has made people much more aware of their own health and their own mortality, and without sounding, morbid, but the point is, people are a bit more aware of these things. And if there are companies out there that have got these benefits, we should be singing this from the rooftop. We should be saying, these are brilliant benefits we offer. They are fabulous. And if they don't offer them, come and have a chat to us, because we do, no obligation quotes. We can just say, this is what it's likely to cost you based on the staff. We can run quotes and things just to give people an idea of, actually, if I put in these benefits, which are going to be really valuable, one, I'm going to be able to recruit people easier. Two, I'm going to hopefully retain people because they are going to see the value of these benefits. And also, it's a reward system. There are things there that are actually very, tangible for people to see.
I think also mercenary, if you're an employer and somebody's off for 3-4 weeks awaiting an operation, they may just be on statutory sick pay, but it's also a loss of a staff member. So again, having that benefit where you can get an employee looked after quickly is surely going to benefit the employers in the long run.
Absolutely right. If you've got somebody off who, absenteeism is, costs businesses millions of pounds a year. If you can get somebody back quicker to work behind the desk, then absolutely it's a good thing. One of the other benefits, which quite a lot of companies don't know that they've got it, is something called an EAP, an Employee Assistance Program. So I kind of liken it to like a citizens advice bureau, if you like. So it can be an advice line. Some of them offering counselling services. A lot of companies have got that with policies they already run, or you can buy it. It's going to be one of those benefits that really comes to the fore within this pandemic, because if you've got somebody at work who might be, like you say, nervous about coming back to work because of the situation, if they've got access to some counselling or some help online, it might just get them back through the door and back to some sort of normality. So there are loads of things out there to help employers and employees.
And I like that because it's impartial. You're getting independent counselling, support, advice, rather than the employer bullying you to come back to work. And yet the employer's helping with well-being, which, you know, everyone's telling us to do. One of the things that I was thinking about, a lot of employers thinking, oh, crikey, I spend all this money each month now with this new benefit for all the benefits you've just said, which we totally embrace. But then all my staff are going to suddenly go to hospital constantly for the next 3 months, rack up all these premiums. Ouch, that's going to hurt. But I guess that hiring someone like you, not only do you review what they've got and get a better competitive quote, but you can maybe help with the excess and keeping...
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so there's loads of things that people can do. So, you know, there are different ways you can set a policy up. Like you say, you might want to put a higher excess on it or a lower excess for things. In reality, people are probably not going to suddenly be given a benefit and rush off, you know, and use it. It in likelihood is that they will use it perhaps over time. They might not use it at all. But what we will find is that if you do put in something like that from an employer's point of view, it is I suppose, a double-edged sword in many ways. You are hopefully going to be saving money with absenteeism and all of those kind of things, not having to use, you know, if somebody leaves because they go somewhere else because they do have better benefits and better salaries, etc., then you're not then with the dreaded recruitment process, which, you know, costs companies thousands of pounds. And again, at Corinthian, we've got a recruitment calculator, so we can put in and work out how much it would pretty much cost a company to work out, you know, how much it costs to recruit, not just in terms of advertising, interviewing, but also all those times when somebody's not engaged, when they're about to leave a job, and then you've got to take somebody on. It can be, you know, thousands of pounds. So actually, when you look at the cost of recruitment versus the cost of putting in a benefit, sometimes it's absolutely a no-brainer.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, I've got a lot of clients at the moment that are revisiting all of their employment policies, whether it's home working or whether it's their current staff handbook, because people are returning to work. And a lot of the questions I'm getting are, can I take their temperature? Can I make them have a COVID test? What if they have COVID and pass it on to people? So why they're actually developing their policies now around their risk assessments, now's probably a really good time to start putting their benefits policies back together to say, you know, we are going to have excess, and if it is overused and abused, then it can be pulled. You can have trial periods. So the employers can put caveats on it and protect themselves, so they don't have to sign a blank check, for example, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where we come in, and we would really help people to understand what's important to them, where they're taking their business. So what we do, initially we sit down with the employer and we work out where you are now, where you want to get to, and how we're going to get you there.
Yeah.
That can be an absolute journey. So it might be that an employer says, do you know what, maybe we'll just put in some group life cover for the moment because we don't have anything like that. So that might be the starting point. And then next year, maybe we'll put in gym membership or perks or private medical or whatever it might be. And what we do is we also look at the demographic of the employer as well. So, you know, you might not, if you've got, you know, a population of, I don't know, people in their sort of 50s, 60s, 70s, it might be that they're not that keen on something like gym discounts or pizza, you know, discounts, those kind of things. So what we do is we sit down and we work out what's right for that employer and that employee. You know, one size does not fit all. Absolutely.
No, I mean, obviously as an employment solicitor, I'm drafting policies, contracts, and I'm also trying to avoid claims for an employer. And a lot of the concerns have been about, yes, motivating staff, but keeping them productive for the business. But also the business has its own needs and requirements, whether it's being back in the office and being productive. And I know it's a very hard balancing act. So, you know, you mentioned something very interesting to me before this call, that you've created a calculator, which is very much all about looking after the employees, guiding the employees. But you're saying get the employers to engage in this and actually give it to the employees. Can you kind of explain a bit more? Because it's very fascinating.
Yeah, so what we did, funny enough, we'd actually designed a budget calculator for employees for some of our clients before the pandemic and lockdown even kind of took effect. And what we did was we developed that a bit quicker than we would have done normally. And what we wanted to do was actually give the employer some support tools for their employees, especially for those people perhaps that they were having to furlough. So for example, people perhaps being furloughed on 80% of pay already were taking, a 20% dip in their salaries. So what we've put together is a budget calculator to get people to really think about their finances. And as we've all done it, we've looked at our bank statements, and gone through things and thought, what's that direct debit? Oh, we've been paying that for years. What is it? And what we're trying to do is get people to have a look at their outgoings, their incomings, some of their assets, for example, if they've got a house that might have equity in it versus the mortgage. I'm quite happy to show you it if you want me to put it up on the screen.
I think it'd be good. I mean, it's a really good idea for, I think, everybody out there to do this, because I mean, if you can save some money now and in the long term, why not?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me share this screen for you so hopefully you can all see it. So essentially what we've done, and this is a free tool that people can download from our website, so you don't have to be a client of ours, you can absolutely use it. It's not rocket science in the terms of that it is a simple spreadsheet, but it does calculate everything. You can put in your income up here, and we've pretty much tried to think about all expenditure that people might have, but obviously left some gaps for, putting others in, for those things we haven't thought of. We've broken it down into various areas: loans, things to do with house, personal care, entertainment, all of those kind of things. And then you put all of that in. And also we have what we call an asset and liabilities tab. But like I was saying earlier, people can put in property values, cars, anything else, any savings they might have, versus any debts, loans, mortgages, etc. on this side as well. What we found is it's been really, really well received from the employer and the employee, because the employer is able to say to the employee, look, we are concerned about you. We are concerned that, things, you're going to have to look at your budgets a bit closer because of what's going on. Have this tool, see if it helps you. So from that point of view, we definitely think that there are things that employers can do to help the employee. We've also set up, historically on social media, we were on LinkedIn, but we've also set up a Facebook page and also a YouTube channel, so that these things can go out and hit employees, if you like, along a media channel that they will use. So like I say, it's free for people to use. They're happy to download it, no problem at all.
I mean, it's really interesting. So we've been giving advice to employees that have been made redundant or furloughed or have discrimination issues. And then for the employers, about changing their policies, amending their staff handbooks, their risk assessments, auditing their contracts, maybe even to see if they can renegotiate their leases. And it's been a very set way of looking at one versus the other. However, you've made it really interesting today, and I hope everybody out there feels that this is more collaborative. So the employer's looking out for the employee's getting enough information to actually work with the employer. And that just seems to be, a really good way, because my top tips have always been communicate. The law says this, the contract says that, but at the end of the day, do you want to get into a fight? Do you want to have to impose rights? Or can you talk? Can you find out what each other needs, what your concerns are? Can you compromise? And I love the fact that you're saying motivate and retain with benefits. Shout about what you're offering. Restrict it, review it, but, offer it. And that tool, we're doing that exactly with our commercial clients at the moment. How can we save the money? How can we renegotiate? Why can't the employee have exactly the same approach to their finances with the employer? And I think it's a really key time right now to focus on the positive. You as an employer did everything to recruit, to train, whether you furloughed them or you're keeping them busy. Now is the time to say, right, we need to keep this staff, we need to retrain them, we need to get them back, we need to be productive. What you're offering is pretty much getting them ahead of the competition and coming out successfully at the side because their staff are kind of working with them. Does that sound too naive?
No, not at all. I think it's absolutely, we've got to go at this with positivity. And that's the one thing that I know Corinthian are doing. We want to come out the other side being supportive, but also offering people practical solutions. And that doesn't just have to be the employer, it can be the employee. One of the things you just said as well is, like I said, you have to shout about this from the rooftops if you're offering these benefits, or indeed if you're looking at putting a new benefit in. It's not going to cost you anything to investigate what it might cost you. One of the things that we do at Corinthian is that we will go out and we will do the communication and engagement piece for the employer. So let's say, for example, the employer wants to put in a couple of extra benefits. We will go in and explain what those are to the employees. We'll do it via presentations or one-to-ones. Obviously, we can do that via Zoom as well now, if we or indeed we can do that on site. So we will go in and talk to people, explain what the benefits are. People can be cynical when a company does the communication, when it's their own company, but when it's an outside company that comes in and does it, sometimes that's much better received by the employee, because they realise that actually these benefits are great and it would cost me a lot if I was going to personally do these. So yeah, absolutely. I think there's loads of great stuff that are coming out that people can do, and come sort of step back into the workplace with real, having all the bits that you're doing, the legal protection. I get all of that, but also there's a load of stuff they can do to make their employees, put an arm around them and say, we're doing something different, or we've reviewed this and we're going to add this to it, or did you know we've got an employee assistance program, or all these sorts of things that you can do. And it's just by having a conversation really as to how you can do that. But yeah, there's loads of positive stuff.
Yeah, and I keep saying to my clients at the moment, you need to start taking advice, because you've got the tax implications, the benefits, the insurance, you've got the legals, and it's very difficult to juggle all of that, because it's changing, as we know, weekly, monthly, and we give a piece of advice, it changes. They're staggering the furlough payments. Like you were saying, you're asked, well, who pays the pension out of that? Who pays the national insurance? Who pays this? So I think it's very important that, employers have this information to give to their employees on a regular basis. And I think it's also very important to impress to employers, whatever benefit you're offering, whether it's a trial, whether it's permanent, it has to be non-discriminatory. So you also have to be very careful you take advice. So, a long time ago, we say, we're not going to offer private healthcare to certain people of a certain age. You can't do that now. No. You might say to people who smoke, or you have a certain medical treatment, you've got to be very, very careful. You don't want to be breaching the Equality Act. You don't want to be taking it from genders, religions. So whatever you do, take advice to make sure nothing you do, whether it's homeworking or benefits, is discriminatory. And I think at the moment, the difficulty is understanding the equality law, for example, doesn't protect a parent. You can't discriminate between a man and a woman. And, I've read a lot of the media coverage about, men are going to work, women are staying with children. That's not the case for very many of us, actually. But, if your staff cannot physically do work because the schools are closed, there's no nursery care, we're in a very different world right now. So the law may say it's not a protected characteristic, but are you really going to take that through and actually force somebody to come into work that physically can't because of schooling? Talk to them, compromise with them, see how it works. The last thing you want to do is come across as a heartless employer, have a litigation claim against you. It's money, money, money. It's goodwill. It's interesting, because I don't know if you've seen like the British Airways that are making vast redundancies unless you take a massive pay cut. And it's interesting to receive social media postings from their clients that they've booked with other airlines, because they're so disgusted with how that brand has treated staff. And I think people need to understand how you treat your staff now, how you perform and deliver your services during this pandemic. People are watching, and you will either get full-on loyalty and commitment afterwards, or your brand has been damaged. And I don't think we've had that in England quite so obvious as we've had it to this time.
No, I agree. And I think also the thing that's coming out, the media are obviously saying, companies are going to make people redundant and we're going into a recession. But actually, we're seeing it in a slightly different way when we're talking to clients. And actually, a lot of people are looking at their staff as their biggest asset. And what you protect your biggest asset. So it is important to make sure that, absolutely the workplace is safe and contracts are written correctly. But things like the things that you can do that are tangible for people, so the benefits, the perks, all of those things, absolutely, if they're your biggest asset and you want to keep them, make sure you put the right thing in place for them.
Well, hopefully the employers out there have taken something from this. And if I could do a small recap, and Natasha, if I miss anything, please jump in.
Sure.
So from a legal point of view, you have to carry out a risk assessment. So your health and safety of your staff, their well-being, working at home, cyber security, GDPR, all of those things have to come together. You have to amend your contracts and policies to make sure that it's clear, it's transparent, that you're protected, you're covered. Obviously, government guidelines has to be adhered to, as well as current legislation, which we admit changes regularly. Case law changes the legislation's perception. So you need to have regular advice, regular sort of contact with your staff to understand the position. Recruitment, retention, that's the thing that we know is costly. So at the moment, can you motivate your staff from home? Can you get them back into the workplace motivated and happy? Can you retain them? Whether it's retraining them, offering private healthcare, stopping them spending weeks off sick, sending them a bottle of wine at home, which, you know, is a lovely gesture. All of these things will show you in the right light for committed staff to come out the other end with a pool of talent. Hopefully your brand stays strong because customers are going to stay with you. You've minimised your expenses, but also the bolt-on employees have minimised their expenses. They've felt supported. They've had counselling services online, which I think is fantastic. So they've had this third party all behind the scenes as a result of you looking after them, getting them back to work. That consolidated approach, I think, makes you a good business. I think it makes you a good employer. I can't really see any negative in anything we've discussed today if it's all followed through.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said earlier, if people do, you know, businesses want to talk to us about getting some indicative costs on some of these benefits, or just understanding some of the benefits that are out there, because they, you know, there are a lot of them now, but making sure they pick the right one for their demographic of staff and for their business. And also, if they want to chat to us around, I mentioned a calculator on the cost of recruitment, you know, to work out what does it cost me to recruit somebody. Let me have a look at the nitty gritty, because in my head, I'm probably thinking, oh, it's an advert in the paper, or I've got to get a recruitment consultant. But actually, it's all those other bits and pieces that suddenly make it much more costly. And actually, if I could save that, retain the people I want to retain, but put in a few extra benefits and things, then, you know, it's a winner for everybody.
And as I've said, you know, we can put all the caveats in the policies, so there's no misuse, that you've got a certain excess. You know, you don't have to worry about giving blank checks. This can all be positive. It can be contained, and it sounds like a really, really good thing to be thinking about right now, because the world is in a very different place. I think the more energised and positive your staff are, you can only do better as a business. So, you know, I hope people will actually take you up, Natasha, and give you a call and have a free consultation, because it is going to be a difficult time for staff at the moment, and we need to be looking out for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know, we know that what it's like, you know, you've got people in an office, you can actually see perhaps if they've got issues, or they might talk to you, but at home you don't have that visibility, and you don't know what their home situation is like. So yeah, absolutely, you know, if you get it right, you really can get it right with people, and like you say, it's about protecting your business and protecting your brand in a time of uncertainty.
Well, look, we're going to have some information on the website with this video. Obviously, you've got the calculator online, you've got a YouTube video that Natasha's referred to. She's offering a consultation for employers that want to either audit their current policies or look at additional benefits for their staff, or even come in and explain their current ones, how they work, to give transparency. I myself, if you want me to carry out a risk assessment for you to return your team to work, whether you need updated policies, whether you need me to put a wrapping of policies around any perks that you give, audit any contracts, or even try to sort of renegotiate contracts, we can do that. But I think our message today is, as an employer, try really hard to retain and focus the staff that you've got, so you come out stronger as a stronger brand. And if we can help you do that, we will. I offer a free consultation as well, and any questions you can email us. All the details will be on the website. I just hope this has been informative, and thank you so much, Natasha, for your time today.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.